Hi, my name is Daniel Meredith, and I have a PhD in psychology. In this episode, we're going to test our short-term memory. Now, short-term memory is a little bit different than long-term memory. Long-term memory is everything that we've remembered over the course of our entire life. And there's all kinds of long-term memories, and we're not going to get into that right now. Today, we're going to focus on short-term memory. Short-term memory is thought to last for around 10 seconds. Now, you can think of it as if somebody tells you their name and you first meet them, you try to remember their name. Now, some of us are good at remembering people's names after they first tell us, and some people are not that great at remembering people's names after they first tell us. But short-term memory is thought to be exposure to information between 5 and seconds after you're exposed to it. So how do we enhance our short-term memory? I'm going to give you some tips about that at the end of this little test that we do. We can also use some of the information that we're going to learn today to help us with our blogs, our website, and business literature, because we're going to learn why certain words are more easy to remember or easier to remember than other words. For instance, concrete words, concrete nouns are easier to remember than abstract nouns. We're going to learn why this happens, and we're going to test ourselves against this prediction. Now, the first thing we're going to do is take a little short-term memory test. So please, at the moment, pause the video and get a piece of paper and a pen. And I'm going to read a list of words to you, and I'm going to ask you to remember as many as you can from the list. But pause the video if you don't have a pen and paper handy. Okay, now I'm going to read a list of words. And when I finish reading the list, I would like you to try to remember as many as you can in any order and just write them down on the piece of paper. I'm going to start reading the list right now. House, dog, dream, bed, beautiful, apple, justice, candle, fear, whale, trust, paper, hope, joy, chair, love, banana, sad, turtle, feeling, car, happy. Now write down as many as you can remember, and we're going to come back in a moment and we're going to test to see how many we got. So pause the video and write down as many as you can remember. Now here is the list that I just read. House, dog, dream, bed, beautiful, apple, justice, candle, fear, whale, trust, paper, hope, joy, chair, love, banana, sad, turtle, feeling, car, and happy. Now see how many you've gotten right compared to this list. We're not going to count wrong answers. We're only going to count correct responses. So see how many words you got correct from this list. After you've done that, we're also going to divide the list into two types of nouns, concrete and abstract nouns. And we're going to see how many words we got correct from each of the two lists. Now this list is the same, these two lists are the same as this list. I just broke it into two categories, concrete and abstract nouns. So once you get those two, we're going to basically have three numbers. We're going to have a total, we're going to have a concrete, and an abstract count. So we're going to have three numbers. Now what's the prediction here? The prediction here is that we should have basically around 7 items from the total. I'm going to explain why that is in a second. We should also predict, we're also going to predict here that we have more concrete words than abstract words. And I'm going to explain that in a moment also. So see how you did, get your numbers correct, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about this and explain it. Now let's see how we all did on our short-term memory task and learn about ways where we can really enhance or strengthen our short-term memory. So the prediction here was that we should have gotten around 7 items. Now that was put forward by Miller in the 1950s, 1956 to be exact. He wrote a paper where he found through his research that people generally can remember about 7 plus or minus 2 items in short-term memory. So that's between 5 and 9. So if you got between 5 and 9 items from that total list, then you are within the average. If you got below 5, your short-term memory might need a little work. If you got over 7, or over 9 rather, then you have a really, really strong short-term memory. Now, let me go back to my list here. If you got over 9 items, you might have used a strategy that some people, they use automatically. Some people don't use this strategy, but some people do it spontaneously without any instruction. It's just the way they remember things. It's good. This is what you should do. Now, some of you might have started to, when you heard me read the list, I started to read house, dog, dream. You may have started to go house, dog, dream, house, dog, dream, bed, house, dog, dream, bed. And you might have started to really try to repeat all the words as I said them to yourself in your mind. Now that's called rehearsal, and that's a really good strategy with short-term memory. Now, some of you might not. You might have just sat there and listened and just kind of hope for the best, and that's not going to work. The best way to get stuff into your short-term memory is to rehearse it so that you have it later. So when you want to retrieve it, it's there, it's accessible. Now that's going to help if you want to remember somebody's name. The best way to do that is to really just repeat it in your mind a few times. If you're engaged in a business discussion or if somebody's talking to you and there's information that's being discussed that you're going to have to remember and there's just too much happening, you're going to want to have to kind of mentally take a note of that. And the best way to really program it into your mind is by repeating it over and over again. We also talked about the concreteness effect, which is the prediction that people are going to remember more concrete words than abstract words when they're exposed to a list of words. Now that's also something that you can. The reason that's thought to that's thought to happen is because concrete words are more likely to invoke spontaneously an image of what the word represents. So when you hear the word dog, you're more likely to think of a dog. Maybe you think of your dog, your neighbor's dog, or Snoopy, any dog really. When you hear the word house, maybe your house, your neighbor's house, your parents' house, whatever it is, you might think of a house. It doesn't have to be even a real house. It could be a fictional cartoon house. But the point is that you're more likely to have a mental image of what the word represents. Other words that are abstract, you're really not going to have as likelihood of having a really solid mental image of what those words represent. So with the concrete words, you're really processing it twice. You're processing what the word means. It means this thing called a house. And also you're processing an image that spontaneously probably activates in your mind when you hear the word. And those mental activations, those images, they don't really happen mentally when you hear an abstract word. Okay, so concrete language is a little bit more processed, a little bit more deeply than abstract language. And you want to use that when you're writing up literature for your business or your blogs or your website or anything that you're trying to demonstrate to people that's important information that you want them to remember, or not even that you want them to remember, that you want them to engage with while they're reading it. So you want people to really engage and process the information from your blog so they remember you. You want them to have a mental imagery in their minds while they're reading your literature, while they're engaging with whatever it is that you're exposing them to. So the way to do that is to really use powerful language, like really concrete language that's going to allow them, whether they know it or not, to activate mental imagery in their mind. So that's a really, really powerful tool that you can use when you're drafting up materials that you are going to expose people to on your website, your blog, and just maybe your business literature. Regardless of where it is or what medium, you want it to be something that people are going to doubly process. So you want to really, really carefully avoid flowery kind of romantic, abstract language. It might seem poetic and it might seem really cool, but it's not going to be as processed as deeply as concrete, solid language that really packs a punch, because they're only going to be processing the semantic meaning of the words. They're not going to really invoke a strong mental image of what the words that you're using represent. And the best way to get people to engage with the materials that you're exposing them to is for them to have a double experience, the meaning of what they're reading, and also have in their minds to have mental imagery attached or associated with the words. And that's the best way to do it. So these are some quick tips that can help you engage with people. So if you're talking to somebody and they tell you your name, you want to really repeat that name over and over again, because you might not need the name for a minute or two, and by that time you might forget what they said. Okay, if there's information that you're going to have to use later in the conversation, you're really going to want to mentally rehearse that image, just like house dog. You're going to want to do it in your mind. You're going to have to do it kind of covertly, or you're going to have to do it secretly so they don't realize what you're doing. You're going to have to do it while you still look like you're paying attention. So it's a little bit difficult, but it's a skill that you can acquire. You want to rehearse the important information that you're being exposed to in a conversation while the conversation is going on, especially somebody's name. Repeat it 3 times in your mind. Don't forget their name. So really, really repeat that. My LinkedIn link is in the episode description. And please contact me if you would like to discuss my consulting or writing services. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be on the lookout for more tips on how to use practical psychology in your everyday life and the business world.